What is up, Battlefielders? This is producer Aaron Sampson, joined by...
This is where I say my name?
This is where you say your name, Chris Waters.
Oh, it's Chris Waters here, folks. What, Battlefield 4 time.
Chris has been down at EA all week, playing all kinds of Battlefields for our review coming up on Monday.
So much Battlefield.
But what we wanted to bring you was a preview of Flood Zone map on Conquest.
Yeah, so we've got a little highlight reel going. This is a 64-player match on Flood Zone. You can already see that the zone is kind of flooded, but it gets more floodier in a little bit. So basically, this is kind of a long corridor map between two elevated freeways. You got these sort of urban environments down here, and sort of alleyways, and then a big park at one end of the Conquest map.
Is this one of them levolootin maps?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to levolute. Of course, Aaron and I are joking about the levolution, which is like the whole buzzword that EA is using to talk, and DICE are using to talk about the way the map changes in Battlefield 4. So take note of this area as it is currently.
It is high and dry.
It's a raised area. Yep, this is the E capture point. We're rolling in an infantry fighting vehicle that is actually amphibious, which is going to come in very handy later. Also, pro tip, while that little bridge there with the circular entrance was lovely, don't try to drive through it in a vehicle, because every vehicle people try to drive through got jammed, and they just got stuck. So the freeway over here, it's elevated. There are a couple on-ramps. That actually provides a real quick way, if you're in a vehicle, to traverse the map. But right now, me and Matt from Game Informer are just kind of cruising around in this IFV.
So it looks like before the flooding occurs, infantry can basically run at will around this map in, like, you know, waist-high water?
It's not even waist-high. I mean, you know, it's like around your shins. It's basically not impeding your movement at all. It looks kind of shiny and nice. We'll see a better look at the water effects in a little bit.
So that's one of the things I've definitely noticed looking at all this footage you've been sending in all week is it seems like water overall plays a much bigger role in Battlefield 4 maps.
Yes, there are definitely more maps that have significant water spaces, and as a result, there's significantly more. There's more boats involved. I mean, obviously the personal watercraft, the jet skis from the Siege of Shanghai map in the beta, folks got acquainted with those, but in this there's also the rib boats, which they have a minigun mounted. We'll see a little bit of that later on as I try to shoot this super annoying dude out of the sky
and his
little bird.
These become tactically much more important once the flooding occurs.
Right, so here's another big difference that this is a before. Like, this gas station has already been blown up to some extent. But boom, like, I just jumped down there. I landed hard. That was not a landing in water. It was landing in a shallow puddle. And all this gas station now, that area I was on foot. In a little bit, you're going to see things are not always that way.
Okay, so during the sequence, we didn't quite capture it here, but during the sequence, this is when the flood occurs.
You're hearing the crash noises, and you're starting to see the water level rise.
So watch these two vehicles. They'll begin to float in a second.
Yep, these are the amphibious infantry fighting vehicles. We're in one of them, actually, but you see that now they are straight up floating. The water level has risen. It ends up rising about 1 story, which comes into play significantly in the downtown area, which instead of traversing on foot, you now have to traverse by swimming straight up.
So now the map is totally flooded. There's like a thin sidewalk around the outside of the buildings, and all the infantry have been forced either into the buildings or to the rooftops.
Or swimming, as you can see. But swimming up onto vehicles is a super bad idea.
And look at all that fluid physics going on.
Yeah, and so it looks, you know, like, and they did a nice job of, like, putting little debris effects in there so that it looks, you know, like that kind of water would look if it flooded an urban area filled with crap. But this is, you know, we just saw a dude jump off the building there, and so I spotted him, and now we're killing him. But, like, some of my peers who are playing started to get annoyed at how much swimming you have to do on this map. And it does significantly change how you are playing it, because swimming is a super liability. You are even more vulnerable swimming than you are running, because you can't use your weapons, because you can only use a pistol sidearm while you're swimming, or a repair tool, as we'll see in a little bit. It becomes even more important to have vehicles, so you're either in a scout helicopter, or you're in a boat, or you're in one of these fighting IFVs.
So the flood...
There goes a rib boat in the enemies, and you see they're just, you're cruising around at a whole different pace, because once you're in a boat, you're traveling much faster through these flood zone areas, so it's really a matter of having to change your entire tactics, especially on a mode like Conquest, when you have to, you know, where you want to get from place to place if you need to move. you're going to have to seriously take into account that swimming is a bad way to get around.
Now, did you ever swim underwater through some of the buildings here?
No, I did not try to, like, there's not a lot of interior space on the ground floor of these buildings. Basically, most of them have staircases aplenty, and here you see the gas station now flooded fully, and
so now you can drive jet skis and rib boats directly into the gas station.
yes, and we'll see that in a little bit, but all these buildings over here, and we'll see a little bit more rooftop action in a minute, they have stairwells that go up them pretty easily. There's no elevators like there are in the other bigger map, or in the Siege of Shanghai, for example. But you know, here I'm getting repair tooled, which is awful. So
he just swam repair tooled.
yeah, and now I'm trying to swim repair tool this guy. He's like almost dead, and I totally almost got him, but instead I got shamefully repair tooled myself.
You had an interesting explanation for why you didn't pull out your pistol there.
All right, so there, normally you can pull out a sidearm, your secondary weapon, but I had equipped a secondary shotgun, which is called the Shorty. And this thing is nasty. It does really good shotgun damage at close range. It's a great secondary weapon, except for the fact that it requires 2 hands. Thus, you cannot pull it out while you're swimming. Here is the levee broken. Water still streaming in, though the level is set at this level.
It's a little bit more dramatic to see the flood when you're right next to the levee.
That's absolutely true, because it just surges in, and people will get knocked over, stuff gets knocked over as these streets fill. And that was a little... I'm going to compliment myself there on my driving there, because you can easily beat yourself or get hung up on little barriers. Those little sidewalks all around the buildings that you mentioned. So definitely a deft hand at the wheel is important for navigating those tight spaces. And so here we're going to sit and capture a flag for a little bit.
Nice. So you couldn't do this before the flood, basically?
No, because this was all above land, above ground, as we saw in the beginning part of this clip. So now people come over here, they start to give you guff. Of course, the rib boat, you're very exposed, so I didn't have a gunner, so I had to do the job myself. And Bob's your uncle. Sorry, sucker. Don't you be shooting no missiles at me while I'm capping a point.
Also, while you're sitting here, take a look at the lighting effects off the water. So it's really cool. Like, the light filters off the water in different ways.
Yeah.
Depending on what the water's doing.
Yeah, I think that the water effects are really, especially on PC, they look great. You know, you're seeing the bullets kick up, sort of showing where you're shooting. You're seeing a lot of reflections, but it's still rippling. You're seeing that detritus I mentioned earlier. You're seeing, depending on the angle of the light, you're seeing this sort of brown reflection, or you're seeing the skies reflected.
That tree totally just fell over.
That tree just level-looted all over you.
No environmentalist.
You know, this is already a total environmental crap zone. And now this is trouble, because that's an attack boat. So I bang a left into here, even though I know I'm not going anywhere. Anywhere is better than in the face of one of these attack boats, because those things are nasty. The driver has this big cannon on top. You can have 2 minigunners on either side and someone off the back. This is one of my favorite new vehicles, especially on some of the other maps. But even here, it's really powerful when you get a good crew going.
So I take it this spawns after the dam is broken.
Yeah, the vehicle
levee.
spawn changes once things happen. Like early on, you've got. Now here we're on the rooftop.
Oh, he saw you.
He saw me. Fortunately, I did not totally die in a horrible way there. But yeah, so the infantry fighting vehicles that we've seen that are amphibious spawn all the time, but like early going, you'll have some jeeps, but now you have personal watercraft. Don't call it a jet ski, because technically jet skis are different. You'll have to stand up on them. And the rib boats and the attack boats.
Florida will hurt you.
Yeah. So, but you'll notice here between point B, point C, there's a lot of. Yeah, there's my wing and a prayer.
I'll give you points for trying.
You know, you got to try those blind fire shots, because once you make them, oh, they're the best. But you can see there's a lot of branch pathways to traverse on top of those central buildings, and we'll see a little bit more of that in the future. It's actually.
So do you need these outlying objectives, or once the map floods, can infantry hold down the center of the map? Stabby stabs.
Infantry can do a pretty good job on B and C, because those are connected. Getting from D, which is the gas station on the side, to here, E, that's really something you want to consider having a vehicle to navigate to. You could probably jump off a building from the center and swim out to D without too much trouble. But then A is on a separate building that I don't think is connected. We'll take a look at A when I get into a helicopter in a little bit. Here I'm just trying to put the sting down on some of these guys, because some of these helicopter pilots and these little birds, man, they're nasty. They will chew you up.
Yeah,
they won't bang into buildings and fall down like I do.
Did you get the impression that real good helicopter pilots could be decisive in this on this map?
They can definitely be, especially because of the mobility concerns. A helicopter is a force to be reckoned with. I really like the sinister attack boat going through over there. And here is, I really just put the smack down on these two dudes in a rib boat, getting in trouble. But then, so you know, because this is sort of a more vehicle-heavy capture point, you kind of got to contend with vehicles.
That guy's just like, hey, we're over here.
I really wish he hadn't done that, because I was totally going to sneak up.
You got no business surviving
now
this, sir.
I'm getting, you know, like, now I see the repair come up, and so I know that whoever's in there has hopped out. So I'm like trying to figure it out. There's things exploding.
That guy's
You just wasted that
pretty
vehicle.
thick-headed engineer. You could have had that.
Come on, man. That could have been ours, but no. And so then later I get into a boat. This is kind of neat because you can get under the freeway in your boat. So you can, with these boats, you can really just zip around a lot, and it's really, you know, I really like it because Aaron, it's basically like urban aquatic combat. There are other maps that are, you know, much more open. This is like my squad is spawning in here and failing to do anything except die.
So in Battlefield 3, you had some of the boat action, but it didn't really have anything to do with the objectives.
Yeah, I mean, it was mainly a mobility thing. Yeah. Like on Karg Island, you know, you could zip around. It was good for flanking, but here, like, you can cap. There's a lot of points that you can cap in boats. There's points that you can defend with attack boats. And here I'm doing a little birding. I think that kill you just saw was maybe my first little bird kill. But I'm trying to capture this point here. And again, this is a sort of a parking garage, which, though it is close to the other downtown ones, is removed. So again, like, you know, having helicopters is a huge benefit for, you know, making sure that you are able to control these points that are sort of towards the end of this flood zone map in Conquest.
Underwater.
Yeah, and you know, the bailout in the water is totally good. Just don't try to do that before the map floods, because you'll break your legs and die.
We'll have to do a fall test at some point and figure out just how far you can fall into water.
Oh, I don't know if there's I think you can fall off. I think I fell off like some really tall buildings into the water, and it was no problem.
Yeah. Like
off of these, well, I guess these are only 2 stories above the water, but you can, and so see, this is an example. These are the stairwells that, you know, this will take me to the top, but we're hopping over here to find something that my squad mate found.
What is going on here, man?
My squad mate, I just look over, and she has found this Easter egg.
That is a literal Easter egg.
And I'm like, I gotta go spawn on her, and then, lo and behold, it turns into a good opportunity for capping a flag. And you see, even with these like awning things, like I'm standing on metal bars basically, but I'm not falling down. So they designed the environments so that you can have this, you know, rooftop battleground without you know, falling down constantly. Of course, then there are helicopters that shoot you.
So that's sort of where they're pushing most of the infantry combat, and then you have the vehicle combat on the outlying areas of the map.
Yeah, because as you saw before when I was winding through there in a rib boat, I mean, you're not really doing anything. It's not like E or D, these places where you can cruise into a vehicle and have a substantive impact. The only vehicle that's affecting B and C in the center of the map are helicopters.
Looks like that lion statue lost its head.
Yes, that lion statue got totally blown up. Or, yeah, the dragon, whichever it is. I'm not sure. But, then I think that at this point I'm cranky with helicopters because they've just been... The other team has been controlling the skies, although if you see the ticket count, we have been well controlling all of the objectives. And
there you have it.
That's a victory for Team US over China in Flood Zone on Conquest on PC. Folks, as we look at all the ribbons here and bask in my accolades, we're going to tell you that the Battlefield 4 review is going to be live on GameSpot on Monday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to be the review for the PC version, the PlayStation 4 version probably, and the Xbox 360 and the PS3 version. The Xbox One version is delayed because of embargo until November 12th. So you won't be hearing a final word on that because I hadn't had a chance to play multiplayer on Xbox. Hey Aaron, who's number 1? US GameSpot. Check it out. I'm on the list.
Nice.
Cool. Thanks for letting me brag about that, Aaron, and thanks for chatting about Flood Zone. Folks, we got a lot more Battlefield to talk about in the coming weeks. We hope you're excited for it. We certainly are. Aaron and I are big Battlefield fans, as you know, so If you're down to get into some Battlefield shenanigans with us, leave a comment below, and we will contact you, and we will have some fun.
Cool. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah.